Lam and Jennifer are outside of KPOO, ready to go onto a video
interview
with Avotcja.
And so I've got her captured in the control booth. Her name is Jennifer Barone, and she's a major mover and shaker on the poetry scene in the Bay Area. Why don't we tell folks who is Jennifer and what was little Jennifer doing, how you got into all this in the first place?
Okay. Well, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in a neighborhood called Bensonhurst. It hasn't been completely gentrified yet, but it might be one day. So when I was growing up, not a lot of people were into poetry, but I had a small group of friends here and there. We kind of had a poetry and literary magazine with our high school, and it kind of started from that. There was no place for us to read poetry in Brooklyn at the time. This was like growing up in the 90s. And so we just kind of took over a cafe or two, and then people started coming over to my house, and just for parties. I'd have poetry parties in my apartment, and then some guy brought over a stand-up bass, like an upright bass, one night, and then another friend brought over a microphone and an amp into my apartment, and then sooner or later the police came knocking on my door. And we figured, you know what, I think it's time for us to start a poetry night, a music night, in the city. So we started some stuff around Brooklyn, and then we moved to the East Village. It first started with a man named Kerry Brown. He's also a jazz musician, a tenor sax player in New York, and we had the Kerry Brown Trio at a place called Via del Apache on 7th Street, around 7th Street in the East Village. And then we got kicked out of there for being too loud and too rambunctious. So we were on hiatus there for a little while, and then we found another place called Raga in the East Village. And we were there for a few years, and then I fell in love with my husband, Daniel Hefez. He's a tenor saxophone player, and I moved out to San Francisco. That's how I came out here. So while I was moving out here, both readings were still going on back in the East Village, and then we started up the Word Party at Club Deluxe, which ran for quite a few years, probably like 6 years, and then we got kicked out of there for being too rowdy. Fights broke out, and I don't know, it's a kind of, once you mix jazz music, like really raucous jazz, we had trombone players, trumpet players, saxophonists, everybody. It kind of becomes a very rowdy poetry reading. It's not your kind of quiet library, sit down, nobody talks. It's very lively. There's just a lot of high energy. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of people. And we wound up on the front cover of the date book section for like our 1-year anniversary at Club Deluxe. And that was amazing. That brought like a lot of awareness to the event. And then all of a sudden, like a lot of people started coming through. But then we were on hiatus after getting kicked out of Club Deluxe, and now we are at Viracocha because Viracocha, a good friend of ours named Jonathan opened it up, and he's a poet, and he loves poetry, and he loves music too. And it's a place that poets can come together because it's really built by the poets. I like to say that like the poets are in the walls of that place because we painted it and built it, and he's very open to poetry, and he's open to rowdiness, and he's open to a lot of friends coming by and playing saxophone and also yelling into the mic or, crying into the mic, whatever it is that we're feeling. So it's kind of a unique poetry reading, the Word Party, because it's so many people from so many walks of life, so many ages, so many different backgrounds, so many different genres and styles of poetry and that's where we are today.
It's always interesting hearing people describe places because everybody has a different, because I never thought that the poetry reading over there was rowdy. I used to be there on a regular basis at
That's
Deluxe,
right.
and it wasn't because I always made sure I was, out of range of any craziness. I was there for poetry, and
Yeah.
I always sat in the front, so anything that was happening obviously was happening in the back of me. And so I'm grateful. I did not even see that, and I missed that place. But anyway, let's talk about now. What's happening with this book? I mean, beautiful book, and and the other culprit is standing here taking photographs of you. So let's talk about the book and the strong silent guy here.
Yeah, so this book is called Saporoso. It's been about 6 years since I last did a book. And this one came organically. I started to realize that I had, as I was organizing my poems, quite a few poems that were about food, and specifically about Italian food, because I have an Italian background. Both sides of my family are Napolitani, and I love food. So I noticed that there was quite a grouping of these food poems. And my friend Lam, who's here, is an incredible artist, and we've been also friends since the 90s in New York City. I met him in an art gallery because I went to art school, and I was working in an art gallery. He was one of the artists. So all my life I've known Lam, and I remember seeing like a few of his drawings about food, and he had these beautiful black and white drawings. So it wasn't the type of book where I gave him my poems and he did the illustrations. We kind of already had them, so it was very organic. I maybe only asked Lam to create maybe 4 or 5 new pieces because I needed some extra ones to accompany or to fill up the book. But for the most part, he did them on his own, and I did my poems on my own, and they just kind of came together. Something about the drawings like speaks to what I wrote about, even though it wasn't meant to. It just happened very organic. But over the last year or so, I decided I needed to continue this section and write more poems about Italian food, and I've probably gained like about 15 pounds writing this book.
You could have invited me all out. It's eating part of the food. I have no problem with good food. What is poetry for you? Why do you keep doing it? Because, from your description of the Club Deluxe, the part of it that I did not see, that I deliberately avoided seeing, what is it that keeps you in this?
Well, I don't know if you avoided seeing it, because I remember you'd get up on stage and the crowd would just go wild after Avotcja came on, just cheering applause. You bring an energy to, I guess when I say rowdy or raucous, I mean that it's full of energy, it's full of vibrancy, and people really like jumping off their seats, and it's not like a very quiet kind of...
Well, you mentioned fights, and so I never saw any of that.
Yeah, that was only once. And it was about politics. It was like the night that Obama won the election, actually. There was lots of things going on. But what does poetry mean to me? I think it's one of those things that I don't have a choice about. I feel like it's one of those things that is just something that I need to do, or else I don't feel healthy. It's like one of those things that my soul needs to do to express itself. It's like a means of expression. And everybody needs to express themselves in one way or another to really feel vibrant, to feel really healthy. And if I don't write poetry for a while, I feel like there's this something bottled up inside of me that needs to just come out. So it's for my own health and well-being. I've found over the years that I need to do it. It's just a necessary thing. And I love poetry because I feel like it's a pure art form. It's not something that's done really, in most cases, for money or for any kind of celebrity. It's really a pure art to me in that sense, and I love it. I love it because of that. And it's also immediate, because you could just take a pen and pencil. You don't need a lot of money or a lot of materials to do it. It's very immediate. You don't need money to do it. Anyone can do it. You just need a paper and pen.
And your book party tonight, let's talk about that. Where is this? What time is it? And what can people expect?
Sure. It's at the Live Worms Gallery. It's tonight and tomorrow night, so October 19th and 20th. And Live Worms Gallery is at 1345 Grant Avenue in North Beach. It's between Vallejo and Green Street. And we have an art exhibit, including a little bit of installation art about Italian food, and it's the drawings from the book by Lang Kong. Did these incredible drawings. There will also be a live poetry reading by myself from the book, as well as some guest poets are going to be there, including Pablo Rosales, who I think has maybe been on this show before. And some good friends will be joining me with poems of their own that are about food. And tonight, we're going to have an Italian accordion player named Ron Borelli. He's incredible. I think he's actually played for the tenors before. So he's going to be playing tonight, as well as the Nova Jazz Band, which features Daniel Hefez, who's my husband, plays incredible saxophone. And he's going to be playing both nights, and we'll also have Stephen Gray on guitar on Saturday night. And there will be a little bit of food and some, wine available to guests who come. So it'll be a really fun event.
Okay, so one more time before we close this out. Give them the who, what, where, why, and when.
All right, it's Saporoso is the name of the book by Jennifer Barone with drawings by Lam Kong. It's going to be tonight at Live Worms Gallery, October 19th, and tomorrow night, Saturday, October 20th, from 7 to 10 p.m., and there's going to be a live poetry reading from the book with me and friends at 8 o'clock sharp tonight and also tomorrow night. So be there. Live Worms Gallery, 1345 Grant Avenue in North Beach, San Francisco.
All right, well, that's the perfect place for it to be. You talk about good Italian food.
Exactly.
It's all over the place. I lived for a very short time down in that area, and I must have gained about 50 pounds. But with that, I want to thank you for coming on down, and it's going to be a great time, I'm sure. I'm going to close this out with a piece of music from her husband's album, the Nova Jazz Group, which is an awesome group, and I put on one of his tunes, La Sirena. Do you know anything special about this?
He wrote that for me, actually. That is the one song that he wrote for me, and La Sirena means the mermaid. And we also got married in Italy. That was kind of a little bit of the motif of our wedding, was this mermaid and a saxophone player playing to her.
All right, well, here it goes. Anyway, thank you for coming down, and this is not the last time.
Great, thank you.
I don't know if you know, I do some poetry marathons down here a couple of times a year, so you have to be part of it. And I thought I had called you. Give me your phone number again,
okay.
Because I thought I had set you up on one of these readings. It's really nice always.
Awesome.
Okay.
I think I had come when Pablo was reading. Yeah, but I had never performed.
It's bigger and packed now, so.
Awesome.
He read when it was first started.